I want to thank you all for joining us for another episode of Inroads to Relo. Today we have a great special guest, Nicole Awalt from Oakwood Worldwide. Nicole's been a great friend, a great resource. Nicole, I want to thank you for coming out today.
Thank you so much.
Well, I want to start it off by asking, how did you get into relocation? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Oakwood?
Well, it's funny you ask. I actually am born and raised in Dallas, went to college an hour north, and then live in Dallas now with my husband and never relocated. So I thought you just moved.
Yeah.
I didn't know all of the moving pieces, no pun intended, to a move. So I did not know the industry even existed. So 3 years in the industry, how I fell into it, I don't know, but I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. That's great. And then tell me a little bit about Oakwood. What's unique about Oakwood, and what are the advantages of working with you guys?
Yeah, so Oakwood is the industry leader in corporate housing. And what's a little unique about Oakwood is a challenge that we see specifically in corporate housing is inventory challenges. So
Right.
Oakwood has kind of gone back to their roots, and we started purchasing our own buildings. We have a grand opening coming up in LA at our Olympic
great.
and Olive location. So it allows inventory at our fingertips. We're a global company. We have inventory in over 95 countries. So
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. So you bring up kind of an interesting point about inventory, right? So I've personally gone through 12 relocation of myself. Most recently with the kids, moving from North Carolina to Texas. Go Spurs go. And no, what's been unique about this move is that we've been in long-term housing well over a year. And for me, it was important to make sure my family was taken care of from the very beginning. And can you tell me a little bit about how you service and accommodate families looking to relocate? Like, what are some things that you guys do to accommodate families relocating?
Well, that's a great question. And honestly, each move is different. There's no move that's the same. And I think it's important to ask a lot of questions when
Right.
you are first dealing with a family. What's top priority? Sometimes it's the kids, sometimes it's the pets. Is it school zone or is it the commute to work? So we really try to figure out their priorities first and then deliver options off of that so that we can best fit their needs.
I'm glad that you mentioned those things because families, not every move is the same. So is there a situation or an experience that you have that you could share where a family came to you with a unique situation?
Absolutely. So kind of going back to the priorities and kids, we had a family moving to Dallas recently, and the kids were top priority. They were bringing their dog. They were so excited. So we put together a fun kids package for them so that when they arrived to their new home away from home, they had some activities. We had a dog bed for them. They were so excited about that. So really just the special touches have really and change the move and the experience for them. We have things, extra pillows. I mean, those are little things that we can, the small things, but they do tend to add up.
Right.
Sometimes it comes down to location, and they want to be able to walk to restaurants or shopping, and so we take those into consideration too.
No, that's great. And now, speaking of unique situations, are you noticing any cultural differences, like an expat moving, to a different country that was born here in the U.S.? Is their needs and demands different than somebody moving, say, from Europe or Asia to the United States? Can you speak on the cultural differences and their needs?
Oh, absolutely, and that is huge, and that's where I really leverage my internal partners at Oakwood, the ones that are overseas, that are in that region where they're going, so that they can help us better understand, okay, what are they going to experience? Because there's going to be some cultural differences. So we try to prep them as much as we can prior to the move. At the same time, sometimes they'll have a short-term visit, go over there to kind of check out and experience the location prior to moving. There's definitely differences when having to move across the United States as well. So we try to have those conversations and prep them as much as we can, if that means providing them with a list of different restaurants that they can go to, or whatever we can do to get them situated as fast as possible is what we try to help with.
Perfect. So speaking of relocation trends, what are you seeing out there domestically? Like, is there any certain hotbeds for housing right now? What are you seeing out there as far as relocation trends?
Well, specifically in the Dallas market right now, with the housing market is insane and it's crazy. So what we're starting to see specifically for Dallas is when the renters or the transferee, when they find somewhere that they want to move, or they're ready to break their lease as fast as possible because the market is so hot. So that then is, we're having to partner with our relocation management companies and the corporate client and figure out what makes sense financially to get them out of the lease early so that they can get into their new home. So we're starting to see that trend a lot, as well as we're definitely starting to see the short-term stays go up, the business traveler, and we're really trying to accommodate those moves as well with our branded properties because we don't have to take out those 30-day leases. We can accommodate those 14-day stays or those 7-day stays.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
So you guys will accommodate short stays, 14, 15?
In some of some markets, not all markets allow it, but in some markets they do. So definitely starting to see that trend of short-term travelers go up.
Great. Have you seen any differences in like the policy though, and specifically like in a city like Dallas where it's a lot of people are moving? Like, are clients more flexible with families and moving to those areas because housing's difficult, or?
Well, that's hard to say, but at the end of the day, they kind of have to be because the market's, I mean, the people are bidding $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 over asking price to try to close on these specific houses. So I think that the corporate client knows what's going on in, in these specific markets like Dallas right now.
That's great. And what other things do you think that the families are really looking for when they move into a new city? What are things that they are looking for specifically?
Well, when kids are involved, specifically, they're looking for the least amount of change for their child.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
So they're looking for maybe schooling or sports or whatever their kids are involved in. They want to make sure that that doesn't change much. So that's really top priority. It's typically just spouses moving. Location is what comes into factor.
No, that's a very good point about the spouses too. Lastly too, what advice would you have for a client developing a policy around a family or looking to better accommodate an employee who's moving their family? Like, what advice would you have for them?
Well, to be flexible, because as I mentioned earlier, no move's the same. Each family is going to have different priorities. The markets are going to be different. So being flexible is just really important depending on the market, depending on the move, and really the transferee and what's important to them. So I just think that that's really important for the client to take in consideration when creating these policies.
Great. And is there anything that you would recommend to the transferee who's moving their family? Like, what should they be doing before they actually accept the relocation?
Provide as much information as possible. I think that that's really important so that we can really give them exactly what they want. The more information we have, the better. To have those conversations and sit with the family and discuss why they're moving and really set the stage for everybody in the move.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that because, with us moving to, long distance to Texas, it was going to be a big change for us, and that's exactly what we did too. We sat down, we talked about it, we laid all our options out. So, no, that's a really good point. I'm glad you mentioned that. So, well, I want to thank you all again for joining us for this episode of Inroads of Relo. Nicole Awalt from Oakwood Worldwide, I want to thank you again for coming out.
Thanks so much.
And I hope you have a great conference.
Great, thank you.
Right, thank you.
Go Mavs. You said go Spurs, go.
I will leave it.